When feedback is included as part of regular ongoing performance discussions throughout the year, the employee, manager, and organization are all engaged in a more aligned process. Welcome everyone to our webinar on Meaningful Performance Conversations. My name is Gary Cormier and I'm the Senior Director of FAS HR Consulting. The most important part of the performance review process is the conversation that managers have with their employees. Given this, once again this year we are focusing on the performance conversation. We want to move from where we are, which for many staff means that they only receive meaningful guidance from their managers once a year, to where we want to be as an organization, which is that all managers and staff frequently give and receive feedback throughout the year. As we move in this new direction, frequent conversations will become the norm instead of just one big conversation at the end of the review cycle. At a Harvard-wide level, the university has been rethinking performance management since 2016. This pilot is offered in part based on this work as well as feedback from FAS senior leaders, managers, and employees about performance management in PeopleSoft. Some FAS divisions and units will be using the new template, and other groups are staying with the current PeopleSoft forms. During this webinar, we will talk about what this looks like and how we will get there. Let's take a look at the agenda. Our goal for this webinar is to talk about performance management conversations through the lens of guidance. We'll cover topics including what is guidance and why is it important? How do we work toward our goal of naturally and frequently sharing guidance and feedback with each other to learn and grow together? We'll finish by sharing some practical advice for giving and receiving guidance in the workplace. Let's get started. What is guidance, you may ask? Kim Scott, who formerly worked at Google and was on the faculty of Apple University, and now is an advisor and coach to companies like Dropbox, Twitter, and Qualtrics, has this to say about guidance. I've learned that one of the single most important things a boss can do is focus on guidance. Giving it, receiving it, and encouraging it. Guidance, which is fundamentally just praise and criticism, is usually called feedback. But feedback is screechy and makes us want to put our hands over our ears. Guidance is something most of us long for. Those are some pretty powerful words that ring true to many of us. Do you frequently give guidance or feedback to others in your group? Does it feel natural and easy to do? On the other hand, do you receive guidance at work? Do others tell you how you are doing? Do they praise you and give you constructively critical feedback? The reality is, for many of us, we don't work in this type of free-flowing, guidance-giving environment. But think about it. At the most basic level, we know that giving and receiving continuous guidance is critical to our success. That's how we learn, develop best, and stay on course. When people in a working group care about each other, meaning it's a supportive and personally connected environment, and challenge each other directly, meaning I'm going to tell it to you straight because I care about you and I care about the outcome, that is when a culture of open communication is created. So right now it's performance review time, but it's important to remember that the annual performance conversation is not the end goal. The ideal state is for managers and staff to use their conversation as an opportunity to begin a more continuous discussion with more regular exchange of feedback throughout the year. As Kim Scott, who I told you about a moment ago, would say, one of the funniest things about becoming a boss is that it can cause a manager to forget everything they know about how to relate to others. If you have an issue with someone outside of work, it would never occur to you to wait for a formally scheduled meeting to tell them. Yet, performance management has been formalized to such a degree that we throw away effective strategies of everyday communication. Don't let the performance management process take over. It is meant to reinforce, not substitute, for what we do every day. Here's another way to think about it. At work, we're all trying to sort out if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and if we're doing it well. Think of this as a journey of sorts. Wouldn't you rather get minor course corrections along the way through support, feedback, and the sharing of insights and coaching from your manager and teammates instead of not getting any course corrections at all? It's like trying to drive to Maine but accidentally driving south to Quincy before your GPS even tells you you're going the wrong way. We don't want to be all the way in Quincy before we head north. We want to be rerouted as soon as we veer off course to save ourselves time and energy and effort and to get where we're trying to go. It's the same thing with guidance at work. It's best if it's timely and brief and ties into your overarching goals. Another way to think about guidance and how valuable it can be is to think about the professional athlete. Would Simone Biles and her teammates have won gold in Rio without their coaches and coaching staff? Probably not. No matter how good you are, having someone else there to help you, to guide you, and to see what you cannot see is helpful. Think about it. She had her coaches to help her perfect her gymnastics and her teammates to offer support and suggestions. She's a phenomenal gymnast because of her skill and talent, but also because of the coaching and guidance that she received throughout her life. Well-intentioned and well-delivered guidance is a gift that enables people to excel in their fields in a way they could not without such guidance. So you may be thinking, this all sounds great. How do I do this myself? What if I make someone upset? What if I'm offered feedback that I don't really agree with? Here are some points for you to consider. Be timely. When possible, give feedback immediately. Don't wait too long. Be brief. You don't need a formal meeting to discuss a minor course correction. Say it in person whenever possible. Frame your guidance. If the intention of the guidance is to help someone to do better and to grow, say that first. Frame the message and then give the message. Listen. When someone is giving you guidance, say, "Tell me more." Seek to understand their perspective regardless of whether you agree with it. Praise in public, criticize in private. In almost all cases, criticism is best shared directly with the other person. And don't make it personal. Keep guidance focused on behaviors and outcomes, not the person. Remember, you might not already embrace giving and receiving feedback with your manager or your direct reports or on your team, but you can work toward that goal. When you have your performance conversation, talk about how supportive and candid your work environment is and what you would like to work toward. Map out small steps to take over the next month, 6 months, or year. Work toward promoting a caring environment that isn't afraid to give important and valuable guidance to each other. Here are some great resources to check out in order to learn more. First, Kim Scott, author of Radical Candor: How to Be a Kick-Ass Boss Without Losing Your Humanity. I quoted her earlier in the webinar. The 20-minute video talks about radical candor, which is caring personally and challenging directly. In the video, Kim also touches on some approaches that you should avoid, such as ruinous empathy, which is when you care about a person but that you don't challenge them directly. Then there is manipulative insincerity, which is when you don't care and don't challenge and simply say what you know other people want to hear. Finally, there's obnoxious aggression, which is when you challenge directly but you haven't taken any time to show that you care about the person. After hearing about these options, the course of Radical Candor, caring personally and challenging directly, sounds even better. The second video features Harvard's own Amy Edmondson, an HBS faculty member, talking about how outcomes are improved when people feel safe to speak up at work. This 11-minute talk touches on how our desire to manage our impressions, no one wants to look uninformed or negative, often leads us to withhold questions, comments, and perspectives, and that holding back will rob us all of countless small moments of learning. On the other hand, in some working environments, there is what Amy calls psychological safety, which is the belief that no one will be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. In psychologically safe environments, curiosity is praised and leaders acknowledge their own fallibility. If you'd like to increase and encourage safety in speaking up in your own working group, this is a great video to watch. Now we'll move on to tools for having the conversation. As you may know, there have been ongoing conversations at the university level for over a year, which is focused on how to more effectively approach performance management at Harvard. Not surprisingly, Harvard is not alone in this endeavor. For a host of reasons over the past several years, many organizations have been exploring how to build a better mousetrap as it relates to performance management. One key goal in rethinking performance management at Harvard has been to find a way to focus on the conversation that managers have with staff, as opposed to focusing on the form itself. By creating a simpler and more streamlined template, we can more effectively shift the focus to having a meaningful conversation, which matters most. This year, in addition to the existing PeopleSoft approach, the FAS is piloting a more simplified option to performance management outside of the PeopleSoft system. This pilot is in response to feedback from a range of FAS colleagues, as well as ongoing work at the university level to rethink Harvard's approach to performance management. Divisions may decide to opt into the pilot instead of using PeopleSoft, which uses a template as a guide for performance conversations. This change is intended to help increase our focus on performance conversation as opposed to focusing on all the administrative work in completing reviews in PeopleSoft. For peer feedback, you can simply offer feedback to someone's manager if you have feedback that you would like to share. Remember, the template is intended to help facilitate the conversation. It includes the key pieces of information you'll want to cover during your upcoming performance conversation and things you should keep in mind when having check-in conversations throughout the year. Divisions and units may elect to use this new pilot approach. In each case, the administrative dean will determine if the division will participate in the pilot or if it's going to use the existing PeopleSoft system for performance management. Some groups may have particular circumstances that may want to take one approach over another. As you can see, while certain elements of the template are similar to PeopleSoft, there are some key differences. Goals are replaced with priorities, feedback is replaced with insights, and so on. A major difference is that the template has no assessment section. Instead, there is a status section that includes options like new to role and performing well in current role. As you can see from the examples, there is a new vocabulary developing around performance management based on what organizations are learning, and the current template has begun to reflect it. These subtle changes are intentional and are part of a broader effort to rethink our approach to performance management. This brings us to the end of the webinar. Thank you for spending this time with us to think about the importance of giving and receiving guidance at work. I encourage you to review the FAS HR website for more materials and resources. Thank you.